He wants a negotiation hook. The Ukrainians can't do it because their supply lines are not solid. Now, they've taken over Russian territory, and Zelenskyy must realize that the more he spreads out inside Russia, he's spreading his lines of communication and supply thin. It's going to be horribly difficult to maintain those lines of communication. He just wants, what he wants actually is to tell the Russians that I can strike at the heart of Russia. And this lack of supply and communication has been the undoing of Napoleon's army when they invaded Russia, has been the undoing of the Nazi army when they invaded Russia during the Second World War, and will be the undoing of the Ukrainian army should they decide to go forward. If you're negotiating with land, the more you have, the better it is. Jai Hind friends, I'm Major Gaurav Arya and you're watching the Chanakya Dialogues English. Like this video, subscribe to our channel and don't forget to press the bell icon. Friends, a few days back I had commented when we'd come to know that the Ukrainian army had taken over a part of the Kursk region. I had commented that Zelenskyy is going to pressurize his army to take over more and more land from the Russians. This is a typical trade-off between the politicians and the military. And I would like to explain, because I did that in Hindi, and I will show you a portion of that video also, I would like to explain to you how this happens and how it pans out. Typically, what will happen is that Ukrainian generals will be wary and will be worried about one thing and one thing only. It is not about the fighting per se. That is a cause of worry. But more than that, it is going to be how to supply Ukrainian troops who are inside Russian territory. The Russians have the supply lines worked out. Russia is a huge, huge, huge country. And this lack of supply and communication has been the undoing of Napoleon's army when they invaded Russia, has been the undoing of the Nazi army when they invaded Russia during the Second World War, and will be the undoing of the Ukrainian army should they decide to go forward. And I've said this before, I'll say it again. Please watch this video. It's in Hindi, and I recorded 4 or 5 days back. I would like you to watch a small portion of this video, and then I'm going to come back and explain this entire thing to you. और ये जितने भी आप सीनियर ऑफिसर्स हैं, जनरल्स हैं, जब आप उनसे बात करेंगे, दे विल टेल यू वॉर इज फॉट ऑन लॉजिस्टिक्स. लॉजिस्टिक्स क्या होता है मैं आपको ये समझाता हूं, फिर मैं आपको बताऊंगा कि ये जिसको ये इतना सेलिब्रेट कर रहे हैं, ये कल इनके लिए बहुत बड़ा नासूर बन सकता है. राइट? ये नासूर बन सकता है. अच्छा, लॉजिस्टिक्स में ये होता है कि जब आपके ट्रूप्स आगे जाते हैं, जब आपके फौजी दुश्मन के इलाके में घुस गए बिल्कुल अंदर तक, उन्होंने दिन में 3 बार खाना खाना है, ये बात तय है. उनकी जो गाड़ियां हैं उनको पेट्रोल चाहिए, ये भी बात तय है. उनको वेपन्स उनके खराब होते हैं, वेपन्स रिप्लेस होने हैं, रिपेयर होने हैं, ये भी बात सच है. उनका एम्यूनिशन बहुत जल्दी जल्दी खर्च होता है, गोलियां चलती हैं बिल्कुल ऑटोमेटिक पे, हजारों गोलियां 1-1 मिनट में चल रही हैं. दोज बुलेट्स, दैट एम्यूनिशन हैज टू बी रिप्लेस्ड, ये भी बात है. चोट लगती है लोगों को, राइट? लोगों की जान चली जाती है, उन लोगों को आपको पीछे भेजना है, फ्रेश ट्रूप्स को आगे लाना है, लोगों का पानी, कुकिंग के लिए केरोसिन, द होल थिंग. ये जो पूरा तामझाम है एक फौज का, एंड इसको कहते हैं हम लोग लॉजिस्टिक्स दोस्तों. और ये लॉजिस्टिक्स का मैंने जो आपको बताया ना, दैट इज ओनली 10%. लॉजिस्टिक्स एक बहुत बड़ी फील्ड है किसी भी आर्मी में, चाहे इंडियन आर्मी हो, अमेरिकन आर्मी हो, ये किसी भी आर्मी की बहुत बड़ी फील्ड है. यहां पे क्या यूक्रेन की कैपेबिलिटी है इसको लॉजिस्टिकली मेंटेन करना? अब आप बोलेंगे मेजर साहब आप खुद कह रहे थे बहुत छोटा एरिया है. दोस्तों ऐसा होता है ना, जब मुंह पे खून लगता है ना, यहां पे कोई बंदा बोलेगा, अब ये देखिए मैं इसको मिटा देता हूं, अब हम दूसरी बात करते हैं. ठीक है, यहां पे ज़ेलेंस्की है, कीव में बैठा हुआ. ज़ेलेंस्की इनके ऊपर प्रेशर डालेगा. अब ये होगा, आप देख लेना कि भाई ये जो तुमने करा है 1150 स्क्वायर किलोमीटर. ठीक है, वो कहेगा कि तुम एक काम करो, इसको बढ़ाओ, इसको आगे ले जाओ. अभी आप देखना ये भी खबर आएगी, क्योंकि एक होता है यू आर ऑन अ रोल, एक लड़ाई का मोमेंटम होता है, एक लड़ाई का जस्टिफिकेशन होता है. वंस यू आर इन दैट मोमेंटम कि मुझे अपने फौजें आगे ले जानी है. सो लेडीज एंड जेंटलमैन, इन दिस वीडियो आई हैव एसेंशियली प्रेडिक्टेड दैट दिस इज व्हाट Zelenskyy is going to do. He's going to push his generals, in various ways and means, take over more land. And why does he want to do that? He wants a negotiation hook. And I don't blame him. I mean, the Russians have taken over Ukrainian land. But the Russians can do that because their supply lines are solid. The Ukrainians can't do it because their supply lines are not solid. Now, they've taken over Russian territory. And the way Zelenskyy is thinking, he's thinking like a typical politician. The more land I have, the more I can negotiate. The more land I have, the more I can apply pressure on Russia. He does not realize that Russia has the most amount of land in the world. 50 countries of the world can fit inside what Russia is today. Maybe more than 50. It is just a never-ending expanse of land. It keeps on going on and on and on and on. And Zelenskyy must realize that the more he spreads out inside Russia, he's spreading his lines of communication and supply thin. It's going to be horribly difficult to maintain those lines of communication and supply. But what Zelenskyy has done is what I expected him to do and what I had predicted almost a week back. Now, Zelenskyy is increasing pressure on US to approve strikes on Russian airfields and their bases. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy increased pressure on the United States to let Kyiv strike military targets deep inside Russian territory after his representatives met senior US officials in Washington on Saturday, 31st of August 2024. Washington has provided Ukraine with more than $30 billion worth of military aid since 2022, but has limited the use of its weapons to Ukrainian soil and defensive cross-border operations. Zelenskyy said guided aerial bombs killed 6 people and injured 97 in Kharkiv on Friday, with more attacks on Saturday. This could have been averted only by striking Russian military airfields, their bases, and the logistics of Russian terror. Now, this is Zelenskyy's argument. There is a problem with that argument. And the problem is, the deeper you go inside Russia, you know the rest of the story. I've already mentioned it twice in this video, and I don't mind mentioning it again. The more you go deep inside Russia, the more your lines of... See, it is one thing to bomb. You want to use long-range weapons? You want to use missiles? That's all right. But unless you have troops on the ground, how do you control that territory? Russians will replace infrastructure with another infrastructure. Today, missiles need not be launched from... They can be launched from mobile launchers. India has that capability. Every single country has that capability. So, if you say that, we're going to strike at your airfields, they'll have drones taking off from temporary airfields. It's not a big deal. And you can make a temporary airfield for a drone in 3 days. It need not be concrete. Drones can take off from everywhere. Russian logistics, their aircraft can take off from anywhere. So it is not like Zelenskyy is assuming that, he just wants, what he wants actually is to tell the Russians that I can strike at the heart of Russia. That is what he's aiming at. He said that clearing the Ukrainian sky of Russian guided aerial bombs would be a strong step to force Russia to seek an end to the war and a just peace. Appealing to the United States, Britain, France, Germany, he said we need capabilities to truly and fully protect Ukraine and Ukrainians. We need both the permissions for long-range capabilities and your long-range shells and missiles. Zelenskyy is expected to deliver a similar plea in person next month when he will present a plan for victory to President Joe Biden near the end of his time in the Oval Office and attend UNGA meetings in New York. Russia says it downed over 150 drones in one of the biggest Ukrainian drone attacks of the war. The Russian Ministry of Defense said air defenses had intercepted and destroyed 158 drones overnight into Sunday, including 2 over the city of Moscow and 9 over the surrounding Moscow region. 46 were over the Kursk region, where Ukraine had sent its forces in recent weeks in the largest incursion into Russian soil since World War II. A further 34 were over the Bryansk region, 28 over the Voronezh region, and 14 over the Belgorod region, all of which border Ukraine. Drones were also shot down deeper into Russia, including 1 each in the Tver region northwest of Moscow and the Ivanovo region northeast of the Russian capital. Ukrainian drone strikes have brought the fight far from the front into the heart of Russia. But ladies and gentlemen, I want to ask you one simple question. Are drones and missiles enough? So what happens if Zelenskyy can actually fire a missile deep inside Russia? What will happen? Yes, it will cause damage to Russian infrastructure. But is it going to seriously stop or even delay the Russian war machine? I don't think so. Russia is just simply too huge. And this entire thing about, firing missiles, the only thing is he needs long-range artillery. He needs permissions to fire long-range missiles. So you hammer the Russians, you destroy their infrastructure, and tell your generals that Ukrainian troops need to move forward. Why do they need to move forward? They need to move forward so that Zelenskyy can ask the Ukrainians to occupy more Russian land. So when the war comes to an end and when Zelenskyy and Putin are sitting face to face, Zelenskyy has something to negotiate with. But again, it comes back to one single factor. If you're negotiating with land, the more you have, the better it is. But can you supply that land? Can you maintain lines of communication and supply? That is the question that Zelenskyy needs to answer. Thank you very much for watching this video, ladies and gentlemen. If you like this video, press the like button, subscribe to our channel. Don't forget to press the bell icon. Jai Hind, Vande Mataram, Bharat Mata ki Jai.